we're diving into some pretty heavy stuff today.
Yeah.
It's
It's pretty intense.
the Middle East, right? And I mean, when you see the images,
Yeah.
houses in flames, neighborhoods just completely, destroyed, and just
Frightened.
sirens constantly
Yeah.
going off. It's really hard to grasp the reality of what's happening right now in Israel and Lebanon.
It's a very volatile situation right now, and it's not getting any easier
Right.
with, the fact that you've got the U.S. in the background trying to
Right.
broker some kind of ceasefire.
Yeah.
It's a complicated situation for sure.
Yeah. There are a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
So today we're going to really try to unpack what's going on. Who are the main players? What are their goals? And what are the potential consequences of this escalation? What could happen?
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that, this isn't just about Israel and Hezbollah. Lebanon is caught right in the middle of all this, and you have the U.S. trying to kind of play this delicate balancing act where they want to be a peacemaker, but they also, are a strong ally of Israel. So
Right.
it's a very tangled web.
Yeah, it's definitely complex. And maybe we should start by talking about what triggered this latest round of violence.
Yeah,
There was an Israeli airstrike in Beirut on Saturday,
right.
and it resulted in a lot of casualties. A lot of people died.
Mm-hmm.
And to make things even more confusing, neither Israel nor the IDF has said anything about what they were actually targeting.
Yeah, that silence is, it is a little bit concerning. I mean, it could be that they're trying to avoid taking responsibility. It could also be that, there's some internal disagreement about maybe the legitimacy of the strike.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you think that says about, Israel's goals here, especially considering that these U.S.-led ceasefire talks are happening at the same time? It seems a little bit strange, right?
That's a really good question. I mean, what are they trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have Hezbollah's response. They fired a whole bunch of rockets aimed at military sites near Tel Aviv on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They had said before that if Beirut was attacked,
Yeah.
they would target Tel Aviv. And they actually, followed through on that threat.
Yeah, and their attacks did a lot of damage. I mean, some of the rockets reached as far as Nahariya, which is pretty far north. It really goes to show, I think, the reach and the destructive power that Hezbollah has.
Yeah, it's frightening to think about, people just going about their lives, and then suddenly these rockets are raining down. And then, of course, Israel responded.
Yeah.
And they responded with a lot of force.
Yeah.
Firing rockets that the IDF said left houses in flames and ruins.
Wow.
They also targeted facilities in southern Beirut, including 2 apartment buildings, which obviously raises some big concerns about civilian safety.
Yeah, that's a really controversial move. I mean, the IDF claims they were targeting these buildings because Hezbollah was using them to hide command centers, but I mean, that's a really tricky area of international law. Can you target civilian structures even if they house military targets? It's kind of a moral and legal gray area. It's not clear cut.
It's definitely murky, and it's a really tough situation to grapple with, I mean, to understand the gravity of all this,
Right.
I think we have to take a step back and look at the history here.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the first time Israel and Hezbollah have clashed. I mean, just last September,
Yeah.
Israel launched an offensive against Hezbollah, which was itself linked to the whole Gaza conflict. So this latest escalation, it's just another chapter in this long and complex and honestly really tragic conflict.
Right. And it's a conflict that's driven by a lot of different factors. I mean, you have deep-seated historical grievances. You have territorial disputes. You have clashing ideologies. It all just kind of feeds into this cycle of violence that seems almost impossible to break. And every time we see one of these escalations, it just pushes the possibility of peace further and further away.
Yeah. And I think it's important for people to remember that, behind these headlines, behind these statistics, there are real people, real lives being lost, real families being torn apart. We're talking about thousands of lives lost, cities under attack, and right now there's just no clear path to resolution. It's really bleak.
Yeah, it's a dire situation, and I think it raises a really important question for everyone listening. Given the human cost, given the fact that these ceasefire talks don't seem to be going anywhere, I mean, where do you think this is all headed? Are we going to see things de-escalate, or is this just the beginning of something even bigger, even more devastating? It's a question we all need to be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point to end on. It's a question we all need to keep asking ourselves.
Absolutely.
We need to stay informed, we need to stay engaged, and we need to keep pushing for a peaceful resolution.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And
Thanks for having me.
we'll keep following this story closely, and we'll be back with another deep dive soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. See you then.
See you.